The design of the typical three-point hitch that you'll find on the back of most tractors here in the United States has always been strange to me. These lower arms, they swing in an arc, but yet they have to fit over a pin which is horizontally straight, not curved or angled. And these arms, they also have to be at just the right level in order to attach an implement. Everything has to be lined up just right, and putting an implement on or off of these has always been a bit of a pain for me. Now, from what I understand, tractors in Europe often come with hooks instead of these rotating balls here, and that to me looks like a much more sensible solution and should be less temperamental. And I don't know why that solution never really caught on here in the States. But there are a few ways to make working with these rotating balls easier, including some add-on hook options. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. And just so you know, this video is not sponsored. Everything that I show will have been bought with my own money. But I will leave some links in the description so that you can check out some of these options for yourself. So my first attempt at making it easier to swap out implements was to build these wooden platforms here with locking caster wheels on the bottom. Now, being able to move the implement made things a lot easier with respect to getting the pins lined up just right. And being the cheap guy that I am, the cheap caster wheels and some scrap lumber just sounded like a much better option than spending money on a new hitch solution. And this did actually work pretty well. It did make things a lot easier than it was before, as long as I wasn't switching out the implements all that frequently. But then I started working on a yard project that required me to switch frequently between the drawbar here and the chipper. And I was trying to remove the chipper, and it was a bit stuck, and I was pulling on this lower arm here, and I felt something pull in my back. Now, luckily it wasn't serious, but that started me to thinking that if I were to get injured doing this, then the doctor visits are probably going to cost a lot more than a new hitch solution. And so again, being the cheap guy that I am, I decided to save some money and go ahead and upgrade my hitch to something that's going to be faster, easier, and better on my back. The first option I considered was upgrading to a full-frame quick hitch. I measured all my implements and it looked like they should work with a standard size quick hitch, and that would definitely be the fastest and easiest way to swap implements. So I started looking at quick hitch options from all the known manufacturers, and a lot of those looked really overpriced to me. And looking at the lower end of the spectrum, there's a Harbor Freight model and some generic brands sold on Amazon, and those have some real quality concerns. There are a lot of people that are complaining that the top hook doesn't work well with a lot of implements and has to be upgraded. And there are also some complaints with regards to the locking mechanisms not working very well either. But the primary issue I have with most of the quick hitch solutions is the fact that they require you to install bushings over the lower pins of every implement that you want to work with the system. Now, of course, that increases the cost. It also increases the effort of having to install the bushings. And if you ever want to go back to the original hitch solution for any reason, that's going to increase your effort there as well. And I really just couldn't understand the reason for designing a system that requires these bushings to begin with. So the second option I looked at was the Pat's quick hitch solution. Now basically these are just hooks that attach to your pre-existing lower links here, and they look a bit like an adaptation to the European style hooks. Now since all three of the links are not attached to any sort of fixed frame, that gives you a lot more adjustability. And this solution might be the best option if you have implements which are not quick hitch compatible, or maybe if you have a post hole digger, which would require you to remove your top link here. Now with this solution, there's no upper hook, so you'll just reuse your upper link here, but keep in mind that once you install the hooks, the upper link will need to be about 4 inches longer than it is now, so you need to make sure that you can accommodate for that. Now, basically you'll have to remove the top pin on any implements before you go to install them or remove them. And so basically you're going to be trading off a little bit of speed for adjustability, but there's also no requirement to install bushings over your lower pins, and I definitely like that idea. So I think Pat's quick hitch should be overall a pretty good option with some minor drawbacks. First of all, the installation is going to be more complicated relative to a standard quick hitch because there are a couple of these U-bolt brackets and several nuts and bolts. And reading through the reviews, some people complain that those nuts and bolts have a tendency to loosen up over time and cause problems. Now maybe that can be resolved with a bit of Loctite, I don't know. But the other issue I had was the fact that they're a bit overpriced for what they are. You know, basically you're buying a couple of hooks and they're at a price point which is more than a lot of the full frame quick hitches. On the other hand, they are made in the USA, and they appear to be really well made. Now there's another similar and cheaper solution I found on Amazon, but it looks like they're even more complicated to install, and the reviews were not nearly as positive as the Pat's Quick Hitch, so I didn't consider those any further. Since the few implements that I have are compatible with a standard quick hitch, it's going to be a lot faster and easier for me to attach them to a frame style quick hitch like this one than it would be to the Pat's Quick Hitch solution. So I like the idea of having a fixed frame quick hitch, but I didn't like the idea of having to buy those bushing adapters for my implements. But there is a third lesser known option. I found two models on the market which offer a fixed frame solution like this one, but without having to have those bushing adapters. So there's this model by Speeco, and there's another model by Land Pride, which is a lighter duty model, but they're both offered at roughly the same price point. Now the Land Pride model has a much lower weight capacity rating than this Speeco model does, and it does not have a adjustable upper hook like this one, which really limits its adaptability. Unlike Pat's Quick Hitch, this one just installs with 3 pins, so I don't have to worry about nuts and bolts loosening up over time, and it's going to be a really simple install as well. And it weighs in at roughly 70 pounds, so it's going to give me a little bit of rear ballast here on the back of the tractor. For me, that's a good thing because I'm running a little bit light in the rear currently. Now, reading through the reviews, I didn't see a lot of quality concerns with this Speeco model as I did with some of the cheaper models. And I should mention that Speeco makes a couple of different models. This is the only one that doesn't require the bushing adapters. And when I bought this one, it only came in the color red. So installation is really simple. I'm just using a floor jack here with a homemade extension as sort of a second pair of hands. I'm out here in the shop by myself. And remember, I'm trying not to injure my back. So I have it at roughly the right level, and I have the lower arms here of the quick hitch kind of sandwiched around the lower links on the tractor, and you just pin it into the same balls as you normally would any other implement. So that's that one. There's 2. Something to note, for some reason this model does not come with a top pin. I don't know why, but just bear that in mind. If you want to buy this model, you're going to have an extra pin on hand. So that's it. Didn't take long at all. So now it's attached to the tractor. I can pull away the jack. Now, right after I initially installed the quick hitch, I noticed that it was not level. It was leaning over to the right side. Now, that's a little bit confusing because the implements I had on before seemed to be nice and level. But at any rate, it was a quick and easy fix. On the Kubota BX tractor, there's this linkage here. I just needed to shorten it a bit using the crescent wrench so that the right side was a little bit shorter, and that leveled it right off. Now, once I got the quick hitch installed and leveled out, it didn't take a lot of effort to get my implements to work with it, but on the first try I was noticing that the lower pins on my implements, they were hitting this little ledge right here instead of making their way down into the bottom of the hook. Now, that was a really easy fix. All I needed to do is turn the upper link here a few times, which pulled out the front of the quick hitch, so the front was angled out that way and the bottom is angled back towards the tractor, and that helped to line everything up. And so now my implements fit right down into the hook notch just like they're supposed to. Now, something you might want to look out for are these gussets here on the corners of the quick hitch. Now, these gussets help to strengthen the quick hitch a lot. They could also be a problem. As you can see here, I have this drawbar with suitcase weights attached, and the suitcase weights on both sides are making contact here with those gussets. Now, as it is, I'm just barely able to get this drawbar attached easily to the quick hitch, but if these suitcase weights were any longer, this wouldn't work and I would have a problem. I did run into a problem which I think is very common with quick hitches, and that is in order to pick up my drawbar, this top hook here has to be in its lowest setting. whereas the chipper here, it works a lot better if this hook is one notch up. Now, after some experimentation, I did find a setting by adjusting this top linkage here that actually works pretty well with both the drawbar and the chipper. And those are the two implements that I'm switching back and forth most frequently. And that allows me to drop off one implement and come and pick up another without having to do any further adjustments or changing out any pins or removing any bolts. Now, as great as that sounds, it's not a perfect solution. With the hook here in the lower position, the pin on the chipper doesn't fully seat down into the bottom of the hook. Now, I've tested this position out in driving through rough terrain and up and down hills, and the chipper here, it's really steady and it's not budging anywhere. And I only have a few yards to travel from the shop here to the area where I chip wood, so this is going to work just fine for me. Now, if you're having a more severe fitment issue with your top hook, or you just don't like having to remove these nuts and bolts in order to raise and lower your hook every time you switch implements, there are some options. You can actually replace your top hook here with a hitch adapter, which will basically give you an adjustable top link pin. You can also add an adapter to the existing top pin of your implement, which will rotate into place and give you a little bit of an extension, which may work a lot better with the top hook on your quick hitch. But if you have multiple implements which are just not quick hitch compatible, or at least not compatible with the frame style quick hitch, then a better solution is probably Pat's quick hitch. Now, there are a couple of things to consider if you have implements that require a PTO shaft. First of all, this top bar here is really in the way, and it makes it a lot more difficult to install the PTO shaft after the implement has been installed. I found it's a bit easier for me to install the shaft to my implement first, then get the implement onto the quick hitch, and then attach the other side of the PTO shaft to the tractor. But it all depends on your implement and your particular quick hitch. Now, another thing to consider is that you need about 4 inches of additional slack in your shaft. If you don't have that, then you're going to need a 4-inch extension like this one here. And that's true whether you're adding a frame style quick hitch like this one or Pat's quick hitch. So hopefully this video was useful if you're trying to make implement swaps a bit easier. Now, in the short time that I've owned this Speeco hitch, I've been really happy with it. It's made life a lot easier, and it's been better for my back as well. But of course, what works out for you really depends on your implements and your particular situation. If you're potentially looking to upgrade to a quick hitch design, I would first start by measuring your implements and seeing what will work. And if there are any tractor manufacturers listening right now, I think there's a big opportunity to offer lower link hooks in place of the balls as a factory installed option for tractors meant for the US market. So that's about all I have for today's video. Let me know down in the comments what's working and what's not working for you, and we'll see you next time.